You got to respect people who turned the lights on for you.
Mase taught me how to rap, and Cam always made sure I was on every single album he had.
You should honor those who switch on the lights for you. Mase taught me how to rhyme, and Cam made sure I was on every album he released. Had. There would be no Jim Jones if it weren't for these guys. An hour later, and I'm glad to hear you offer flowers. I'm not going to give any flowers to those I despise because I'm a hater myself. You don't think Pusha T should be among the top 50 rappers of all time? Ow, what did he do? What has he done that places him among the best rappers of all time? Aside from that, he undoubtedly didn't they kiss. This is precisely why Jim Jones crashed out again. Pusha did not simply throw shade. He stared into the camera as if he were looking into Jim's soul. No jokes, no filter, just pure heat. You could feel the strain via the screen, fueling the fires as it was personal. He claimed Jim has been evading the spirit of repossession since the bank came and took his That line is cold-blooded. He was shooting directly toward the heart. People online were shocked by how deep he went. Oh man, okay. What do they want? He was not playing fair, and he was aware of it. When things couldn't get any more insulting, Mase approached with a bucket of popcorn in hand, as if he were seeing a comedy act. No words, no warnings, just vibes and snacks. That move right there is legendary trolling. Mase did not need to say anything, his mere presence proclaimed, "This is entertainment." Faniga implored us. You're a fan. A fan. However, take a pause. Get off my Jim was being mocked from every angle, and the internet was loving it. But here's the wildest part. After being publicly clowned from every angle, Jim continues to refuse to accept defeat and retreat. Like the man is doubling down. Instead of cooling down, he jumped right back in the booth. I shot back at Ush's disc with a freestyle. Yes, he is continuing, swinging even when no one is ducking. And now, he's slinging smooth shade on Instagram, aiming shots at Pusha and Malice as if they'll shake him. But truthfully, those posts were merely fabricated. Things become worse. This is for you? Where does Drake rank in hip-hop history? I would say he is the best of all time. He's battling wars from every angle. People are already choosing out his jersey for the Rap Hall of Shame. However, you already know Mase and Cam warranty. I'm going to let that slide. Let's get to it. Pusha completely annihilated Jim Jones with his tiny tabletop performance. It wasn't only good, it was a deliberate assault with a melody. Pusha and Malice arrived like two generals regaining their turf, delivering a tremendous set as part of the rollout for their return. Album, Let God Sort Them Out. They had the entire room locked in. And, when they dropped Chains and Whips with Kendrick Lamar, woo, that performance was not a disc. It was a lyrical execution. Think about the 5 Pusha T records right now, his records. Yes, I adore Pusher. Nostalgia, Pusha T enthusiasts. I didn't realize he had fans like that. Can you name 5 Pusha T records? His records, C, but no. Can you say no? Could you rap to 5? Push can I can't rap 5. Alright, can you rap 5 times? Wait, can you rap? If 5 pushes a T records, not the records he has appeared on. Could you rap if 5 Pusha T records came on right now? Pusha and Malice did not only mock Jim, they demolished him in front of the culture. They took turns at each bar. Jim's entire rap persona was ripped apart with ease. You could rap 5 Push T records, yeah. Could you wait? Could you rap 5 Pusha T record right now? Have you begun playing? What exactly do you mean by rap, like the hook? Like, could you sing them? Nobody expects Jim to come away unscathed after that one. If you watch both videos, the little desk performance and, with the clever lyric breakdown, you already know what time it is. Pusha did not flinch once, not a twitch, not even one blink. That man was locked inside. He stared at the camera as if he were looking right through Jim Jones. It wasn't simply about delivery, it was intimidation with a beat to it. He had that blank stare combined with a cold grin, as if he wanted Jim to feel every syllable deep into his chest. You're not in my top 50, you may be in Charlemagne's top 50 and so, but you haven't done much for me in my life. I didn't want to be pushy. I've never had a pushing moment in my life. I never thought you'd dig like where I'm from. Want to be like you. If you were truly that person and that rapper and stuff, you admire Pusher. He was influenced by Pusher. Yeah, damn, okay, cool. That's why Pushy did Mr. Me to record. Okay, cool. You are a very strong Pusher T. You were nowhere near the top 50. You surpass 950. And the way Pusha glided along those bars, pure precision. He wasn't only rapping, he was chopping through Jim's entire reputation. Clean and calculated. There's no chanting or hoopla, just surgical disregard on the beat. But honestly, Jim did it to himself. He opened the door wide open when he suddenly chose to come at Pusha, acting like he had something to prove. You don't think Pusha T should be among the top 50 rappers of all time? Wow, what did he do? What has he done that ranks him among the best rappers of all time? Time to talk about something other than that. He probably did not. What did he do? Nobody has dressed like him. Nobody wants to be like Pusha T. No, I can't remember anything. And let's not be evil, but we're going to talk about rap that's popping beat. I don't know many people in this game that were leaning toward being like Pusha T. And for what? Loyalty to Drake. Let's get real. Jim began to move like a full-time Drake hype man, dissing Pusha for no discernible reason. Pusha noticed everything. Pusha's words about shackles and whips were all in the room. But here's the elephant. You're chasing a feature that isn't in your element. That was direct. He chastised Jim for begging Drake for a feature like it was a golden ticket. And to make Jim even went so far as to suggest Drake is the greatest rapper of all time. I don't know what album they play in a dot club or Pushing T they don't play outside. NBA Youngboy before Pushing T, that's crazy, Jim. That's what do you think of the NBA Youngboy's push? Nah, Jim is just trying to make everyone furious. Push it to your rail now. You heard Jim trying to irritate everyone. That's Jim. Look at him. Look at him. That is how deep he was attempting to ride for that collaboration. But instead of a verse, he was dragged into a verbal beatdown he wasn't prepared for. Jim flipped the switch really quickly. He's chilling 1 minute and then acting like Drake's own attack dog, coming at Pusha from every aspect. And it all began when Billboard released its list of the top 50 greatest rappers of all time, with Pusha T at number 29. That's when Jim lost it. He went on The Breakfast Club and stated unequivocally that Pusha did not deserve to be on the list, let alone in the top 50. Seriously, that is a huge assertion to make, especially against someone as bright as Push. Jim didn't stop there. On the Rap Caviar podcast, he doubled down. As if he had something, he stated that Pusha has not made any substantial contributions to the culture. Considering Pusha's extensive career in the game, from Clips days to solo excellence, that's wild. However, Chains and Whips appear to Beatty disc cut far deeper than Jim imagined. And the next thing you know, he's already dropping a freestyle answer. Here's where it gets weird. That freestyle wasn't fresh. Nah, Jim, that event was recorded 2 years ago, before Chains and Whips even came out. And now everyone is puzzled. How did Jim get his hands on that beat ahead of time? Was he planning this all along? Was it leaked? Or was he already feeling friction with Pusha way before it go public? Regardless, it's a mess. And now people are starting to suspect helium, watching Mase on cam. And everyone else seems to have been plotting this whole beef from the shadows long before the rest of the world was aware of it. Wow. He has A on all the time. You heard. Like I was there the whole time, but I was Cam's man. Did you hear that? I wasn't there for everything. Anyone Cam didn't like, I didn't like, and I could immediately see how he treated Cam. So I obviously didn't like him. And then I saw how much love Cam had for him, and how Cam was jumping out the window for him, which a friend should enjoy. Like, being overprotective and making sure nothing happened. He seemed to be doing everything he could to keep Mase safe. But Mase had gotten the money and lost his head. So this is how it all began. 2 years before Chains and Whips was officially released, a portion of the tune leaked. During the runway presentation for Louis Vuitton, they stepped out to the music, and the moment that beat it, the internet lighted up with curiosity, and Jim jumped on it, grabbing the leaked beat and dropping A despite being pulled through the afterclip's spectacular tiny desk performance. Instead of staying low, Jim got directly on Instagram and threw even more shade at Pusha. He tweeted a clip of that same old freestyle he did 2 years ago and tried to play it off as it was. He posted a new response with a petty fancy caption. I thought we've already addressed this. He's going to need a larger desk because that one was too little. This is surgical. I'm not a storyteller. I'm a life liver, and your brother is still a friend to me, lol. M has to go on a diet. He needed to go to the doctor and obtain a physical. Horrible. Bad body back. Look huge around your neck. I'm body shaming him, and his waist looks insane. He needs to get his things together and get on the treadmill, do some push-ups. Did you hear? Especially for playing with me? However, the internet didn't buy it. His own supporters were not offering him any sympathy. They were frying him, and the people instantly called it out in the comments, with one saying, "You got I was triggered and smoked way too much. You re-uploaded a DVD from last year." Another remarked, "Bro still believes he can go bar to bar with Pusha." That desk was not the problem. Jim thought he was rotating the block, but instead he reminded everyone how brutally he was treated the first time. One admirer mocked Jim in the comments, writing, "He stated no names, yet you are out here claiming enamel on your necklaces." Another came even harder, writing, "Jealousy becomes obsession. Give up, guy, you're reaching." And the crazy part, it ain't just random people online getting their Evan Mase and Cam chimed in. And if you know if you've had a lengthy and tumultuous relationship with Jim, you can be certain that they're relishing every moment of this upheaval. He was your man on like in the side. He was not a rapper at all. So when bawling happened and I was staring and going, "Oh, he's having a moment. It's a Lloyd Banks thing." He wanted that, and he was observing them as if they could be that, and looked at, and it was finally, he had one. And I just looked, and I knew I just took shot murder to see because I wasn't sure he would go for it. Now, if you're wondering why Mase was laughing, it's so hard because this drama isn't new. It's been going on for decades. Jim, Mase, and Cam all started out in Harlem and grew up together. That's what Jim alleges. Cam has his own version of the story, and it doesn't quite add up. So, back in the mid-90s, the three of them were part of the same early rap crew known as Children of the Corn. It was all about unity and hard work until things began to change. Mase was the first to break through. He signed a lucrative deal with Bad Boy Records, and blasted Jim claims that this was the point at when everything began to, according to him. When Mase became famous, he quickly changed his ways and began his acting career. According to Jim, Mase began to distance himself from the people who had supported him, particularly Cam. "I said, we like Jimmy better than you anyway. Cam, you've got to observe how he reacts. We see him like, oh, he really likes it. Give me this. Get me, Jimmy. Yeah, tell him we want him. We want you at the performance, Jimmy." But that was one of the things I just threw out. Is he even doubled down on that take during dot? In an interview with Justin LeBoy, he stated that Mase had moved on from his early days. Whether this is true or simply revisiting old arguments, the tension is clearly still boiling. And now that Jim is in the hot seat again, Mase and Cam are watching from the sidelines, chuckling as if it were déjà vu. Back in January, Jim didn't hold back, claiming he saw Mase chatting slickly about Cam after he blew. Jim claims that it wasn't simply behind the scenes events that caused him to lose all respect for him. It was a betrayal, plain and simple. See, when Mase was coming into the public spotlight under Diddy's tutelage, they had nothing else to think about but Capo. I accomplished a lot for them during their lives. And you heard both of them. Pause, get off my dick. There's just space on here for baby girl. Come on, man. My Cam was still in the trenches, churning. Cam worked hard. He didn't have the machine yet, but when he did, he didn't leave Jim behind. He brought him in, and together, they began creating what would eventually become us. On the other hand, went a radically different road. The Dipset empire is an example of loyalty. After his run with Bad Boy, and all the behind-the-scenes drama with Diddy, he slipped out of the game completely, and became a pastor, stepping away from rap. Cool, but then he came back, left, and came to Jim. It didn't feel like growth. It felt more like Mase was chasing whatever spotlight was shining at the time. One moment he's preaching, the next spitting diss tracks. Jim felt it as false. As if Mase was acting opportunistically, turning up, when it was Jim was irritated by the inconsistencies of the aesthetic, which I had constructed. Okay, diplomats, you heard Dan the Cam's pink. You heard, he said, no. Okay, sooner or later, he'll have to tell you where he obtained the pink. So now, as Mase joins in on the ow, already aware that history is a contributing factor to this, clowning from the sidelines, Jim is not just reacting to Pusha, but also reliving decades of unresolved conflict with Mase. Without a doubt, Mase and Cam had serious challenges back then, but they were able to resolve them in 2022, when they reunited and debuted their viral sports podcast. It is what it is. The public adored it, but it clearly resurrected old wounds. Jim Jones wasn't feeling the rekindled brotherhood between Cam and Mase had Jim enraged and angry, so he started throwing slick shots again. Just lately, he went off on Mase, insulting his appearance and even telling him he needed to go on a diet. "You are from the Bronx, bro, not Harlem. So why do you think you're from Harlem? Bro, you're not. I didn't grow up with you. Contrary to your belief, I did not grow up with you. Are you from the Bronx? Did your grandma reside in Harlem? Yes, you did come to see her, and yes, I did see you occasionally. Yes, I did not grow up with you, and it did not involve bars. It was about feelings, pride, and past that ain't ever totally healed." Of course, Command Mase weren't going to let that slide silently. So they decided they invited Jim's lifelong rival, 50 Cent, to be a guest on their show. To add insult to injury, Cam hit Jim with a slick during the conversation. He challenged 50 to explain why Jim Jones showed up uninvited at one of his gigs in 2007. This was at the height of the Dipset vs. Gunnet dispute. When things were really tense, Jim's appearance at a Gunnet event back then aroused eyebrows, and Cam made certain the world remembered it. Mase, even though Mase and Big were on the same page, Bloodshed, my man, Hermitgruff, and I were really popular in the street before the internet. Everyone knew we were about to acquire a record deal. It wasn't a secret, it was a bold act that made it clear Mase and Cam weren't just clowning about, they were coming after Jim's entire legacy. Receipts and a live audience. Cam knew exactly what he was doing. He threw it up like a beautiful alley-oop ready for 50 to hammer it home. And 50 delivered, big time. He didn't hold back, and Jim clearly took the bait. Not long later, Jim went off during his sit-down with Justin LaBoy. He began snapping on both Cam and 54, even speaking on his name, suggesting they owed him more than a few favors. Essentially, "You heard our freestyles and came up to me one day when I was chilling in front of the home, saying this word to my dead mother. I heard the you're murdering. Yo, you know my grandmother died. If you want to come by and just hang out, you are free to do so, right Joe, thanks." It didn't make much sense at the time because we were like, yo man, what is Joe inviting us to his house for? Jim went on to say that he believed he was being played, and you could tell by the tone of his voice that he was taking it personally. He claimed to have created the complete style of Dipset. He took full credit for inspiring Cam's iconic pink, fur coat appearance, which eventually became, according to Jim, it was his influence, not Cam's, that made the drip so well known in hip-hop culture. But Cam wasn't going to let that go. He jumped back on the podcast and unleashed loose. There was no filter, no reluctance. Nonetheless, traveling to Joe's residence did not make sense. "I never needed a place to stay. You act like my sofa. You were a fan, you begged us, and you are still a fan. Come on, a fan. We did not grow up with you." I Am Cam examined Jim's origin narrative for the Dipset as if it were fiction. And Hegium was not even from Harlem as he constantly claimed, calling him out for falsifying his origins. Jim wasn't a day one soldier. He was a late addition. Joining after the foundation had already been established, Cam made it obvious that Jim wasn't in those early trenches with him. He wasn't part of the original. Cam claimed that the pink fur originated from his vision rather than Jim's imagination. This was not simply shade. It was a full-fledged heritage check. Cammy wasn't going to let anything slip. Especially when Jim tried to rewrite history by claiming he saw Mase kill him back in the Bad Boy days. Cam completely shut that down, saying Jim wasn't even in the picture at that time. According to Cam, by the time Jim appeared, Children of the Corn's moniker was already well known in Harlem. Cam admitted that he was only a fan back then, observing from the sidelines rather than putting in work. Says, "Yo, I think I'll teach him how to rap." Mase truly trained you to rap. Literally, he taught you to rap. You say it, rap, bring up the clip. Mase helped me learn. Mase taught me how to rap, and he actually showed me. Mase was the first person to teach me how to rap. He literally sat me down and demonstrated the magic of rapping. And Cam wasn't done. He kept pounding the throttle, reminding everyone. There's little doubt that Mase is the one who taught Jim how to rap. Cam came with receipts. He hauled up old video where Jim himself confirmed it. No way to spin that. That was game set match. The true cherry on top were the strange cuts. During the podcast showing Mase eating a massive bucket of popcorn laughing. I didn't think it was a big deal because you make up with every end placed. But now I see the pattern. If we agree to disagree, but don't want to take, they took that method since they had some genuine love for you. At one point, he laughed so hard, it was straight up comedic gold. What makes it extra stranger is Mase didn't have to say a single thing about Jim. He simply sat there eating tea popcorn as if he were in the front row movies, and his silence caused further damage, more than words could ever express. Bad body. He looks like he likes big fat bad taco. Eating stew, that's what he remembers me of. Slap the popcorn away from me. Let please, stop. That was enough to get under Jim's single quotes skin. Jim became so heated that he ended up clapping back on social media, stating he would slap the popcorn out of Mase's hands. That is how triggered he was. Man in the corner was silently giggling. Jim is ready to throw hands. This whole thing has gone from lyrical to theatrical, and it looks real. It is now personal. But here's a twist. Jim Jones ain't finished yet. Not even close. According to rumors, he is now partnering up, collaborated with none other than Drake's fourth upcoming album, Iceman, and from what is behind the scenes, Jim is line up shots for direct impacts. Everyone who came for him, that means Pusha, Mase, and Cam, were all on Thomanu. Don't get it twisted. There's no random feature. This maneuver could flip the entire narrative if the track smacks hard enough. Industry insiders are already abuzz about one particular song from the project that is supposed to be fully fledged lyrical retaliation. Jim is putting everything on the line to demonstrate he remains a force to be reckoned with in this game. So, the question now is, will this comeback silence everybody? Or is Jim preparing himself for another round of smoke? Anyway, this chapter will be loud, messy, and unmissable. Make sure you strike that subscribe, turn on alerts, leave a comment below because this saga is far from